Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly on this Wednesday afternoon. Wish you Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. This will actually be our only full show with the cameras and the TV side in the whole month of December, so we had to decorate the setup and be ready to rock and roll for the Christmas holiday later this month. Appreciate the CEC TV crew for helping us get the set decked out and helping us spread some holiday cheer. And speaking of holiday cheer and being excited about the season, we are excited to have Dixie State head football coach Paul Peterson joining us on the set today. Coach, it's been a couple of weeks since the season has ended, but with Thanksgiving and with us kind of having to alter our schedule on the show, we haven't been able to have you on till now, but we're excited to have you here in studio and to break down what was a tremendous 2019 season for your football team. So first of all, thanks for being here. And second of all, now that you've had a couple of weeks to digest everything that went down this season and an 8-3 finish and the best season of the D2 era as you close the door on the Division II era, what are some of your the first thoughts that come to your mind about this season now that you've had a couple weeks to digest it and kind of sit on it a little bit?
Now it's over, right? Yeah. No, thanks for having me on. It was fun, man. I really want to tip my hat to my guys. They worked their tail off, man, and there's no substitute for hard work, and they bought into what we were trying to do. Offensively, defensively, special teams, on the field, off the field, and especially those seniors, they did a great job of leading the way, and we're gonna miss them. But our team did some really good things, man. To go 8-3 and to set out to we didn't accomplish all of our goals. We wanted to get that playoff berth and challenge some of those teams. But I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the way they responded to a difficult time and a coaching change when they weren't that bad of a team last year, winning some games but I'm really excited about the future, and this propels us into this jump to Division I, and with all the stuff that's going on campus, all that excitement. I'm lucky to be here and just to be a part of it, and we're building something great, I think.
Absolutely, and we'll get a little bit later in this interview. We'll talk about kind of what's next and moving forward and Division I. We kind of brought it up a little bit all season long, and at that point in season it was like, well, we got to get through this season before we can actually talk about that. And I know you've got tunnel vision and you're thinking about that, but let's just recap the season and break it down. We mentioned the 8-3 season, a bunch of guys on the All-RMAC, a Sports Center, not just in the top 10, but the top play. Awesome. I mean, there was some great moments for this team this year. And since we mentioned that, let's talk about it. We didn't really get a chance to talk to you about that moment during the season. What was it like? The top 10, yeah, the top play. Cool. We didn't get a chance to ask you about it. We talked about it on the show, but we didn't want to bother you with that in season. No, but
okay.
How was that, in the locker room, amongst the coaches, amongst the players? We had Cajun on the show, and he did a great interview, and he was amazing.
He's a funny kid.
On the show. But talk about what that meant to your program. And I know it's Sports Center and it's just the top plays, but obviously that's a lot of exposure for your program as well. And talk about what the next few days were like after that moment and around the locker room.
Watching it in person, so I was probably 4 or 5 yards away. To see it, the sideline angle doesn't give it justice. If you looked at our film when we have the end zone camera, you actually see how far out of bounds he is when he tips that thing back in. It's phenomenal play. I looked at him like, did he just do that? Was awesome, And so he put himself in position to be successful. JT's paying attention, tracking the ball down, and had a chance to make that play. I haven't seen many plays like that. It was phenomenal. So really, really fun. I didn't realize it at the time that it would be a top 10 play. You never know. You guys did a great job pumping it out there to get on there, but it was worthy of it, man. It was a special play. Those are fun. Those are fun when it meets up and you got your opportunity and you make a play. That's what it's all about.
Certainly was obviously not the top moment of the season, but
it was fun. It was a
huge season, and it got a lot of, it wasn't just the one show. I mean, it was all night long on the Saturday edition. It was CBS Sports Network had it going, multiple social media. It garnered a lot of views. I mean, at the time, we figured that it had probably close to over a million views just of all the different things that had been posted on. So ton of people were shown Dixie State football awesome. and what that is, and it was a perfect time for it with this move to Division I going forward as well. So
as much pub as we can get, we'll take all of it, right?
Yeah, not only that, obviously, the top 10 play is special, but you obviously had a great season and a fun and special season. Let's kind of just go back towards the end of that season. Obviously, it's been a few weeks since we've talked with you, but you go on the road to Colorado School of Mines, the number 8 team in the country. You put up a great performance. You played them better than any team up to that point of the season had played them. We're within a couple plays here and there of maybe going on the road and stealing one against a top 10 team. You end up losing that one 35-27. But then you come back home on senior day, Adams State, and win that one, the 35-10 victory there, and get the 8th win of the season. Just kind of go back between the two of them games, just kind of give us a recap of kind of what your thoughts were going in, and then obviously what your thoughts were after the games were over.
Yeah, the Mines game I was really proud of our team. We'd made some mistakes in some of the games previously, even the ones we won that we wanted to get fixed, and I felt like we gave ourselves a chance. We didn't. There's a couple defining plays in that game. I was just talking to some of our players in the interviews that we're doing right now, but that were tough, that were unfortunate, that hurt us a little bit. Dewan Dantzler wishes he had that punt return back. That changed the tide a little bit. The late hit on the quarterback, which was kind of, looked like he was still on his feet running around a little bit. That gave him a first down late in the game too. But we're right there. We're right there with a really good team. Give us another dang year, and we'll see. I'd love to play those suckers again. Them and Pueblo. Those are good coached, well-disciplined teams, and to see the progression that we'd made throughout the season to get to a point like that was pretty good. That could tell that was kind of a little benchmark game. Unfortunate that we lost. I mean, our guys wish that they had that back, but they played tremendously well. They executed what we asked them to do, and they gave themselves a chance. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. And then the last game of the season, I felt like we didn't have very much gas that last game. On the sideline, we were pretty spent. It was a pretty spent game. It was good to be back home. It looked like Adams State were missing a couple of their guys. They're missing their quarterback and receiver, and so they weren't able to do some of the things they'd like to do offensively. And that just goes to show our guys were we had a weight room culture, or physical. We stayed healthy for the most part. We missed some couple guys there, but it was a good defining win for our program to get that 8th win at home last part of the season. That's what we were trying to accomplish, and give us a chance to play in the postseason. We still had an opportunity in the super regionals to maybe get picked up in that 7th spot, and also to talk about a bowl game reached out to us and they chose someone else. But our guys, 8-3, in FCS is a playoff, no doubt, and then we're getting a bowl game in Division I FBS, and so I'm a little bit different with Division II, but our guys did a really good job. I'm proud of them.
And of course, going back to the Adams State game, you mentioned they came in and they were kind of riddled with injuries. Their all RMAC candidate quarterback was gone. The leading receiver was gone from that game as well, and it just kind of seemed like they didn't really have an offensive identity in that game. Is that something you recognized early and just said, "Hey, let's go play defense, guys. They're not going to outscore us. We know our offense is going to be able to outscore them. Let's just make sure we don't make any mistakes on defense."
I think right away I was like, "What are they doing?" They started doing the Wildcat stuff. When you start, especially the last game of the season, doing stuff that you haven't done all season, then they're kind of in trouble. And our D line did a really good job kind of getting after them a little bit, so they couldn't run. They wanted to run the ball, but then they got into some bad situations where they had to pass it, and they weren't built that way. So we saw that right away. And then offensively, they had a couple guys on defense that were doing some good things. They had a good defensive end that was leading the nation in sacks, I think, at the time. But yeah, it was a fun one. Guys made some plays. Out there. It was good to see Cody have a good game, and Chase had a monster game. Holy smoke! I don't know why he didn't get the RMAC Player of the other week. They gave it to Cody instead, but Chase made some phenomenal 3 touchdowns for a tight end. Are you kidding me? 100 yards, and the plays he was making, stiff arm and just knocking dudes over. He was sweet.
Don't get us started on Chase Hask, because he's become one of our favorite players.
Oh, you guys like Chase?
We love Chase Hask.
He'll come up a little later in the interview. I love the tight end position, and it's been fun to see that position grow and flourish here at Dixie State. So we'll talk about Chase a little bit here in just a moment, and I will say if he doesn't end up All-America of some sort this year, then something's
really?
wrong.
Okay.
I just he's got the numbers, and I was looking at.
How compared to all the tight ends? I haven't looked at that stuff.
He's got. I just in fact I was going through some numbers in terms of our super region. He's got the best numbers of any tight end in our super region. So and we'll see how that stacks up with some of those nationwide numbers. But he's a stud, and we'll talk about that. Well, that'll lead right in actually to what I want to talk about next, and as we chat with head coach Paul Peterson on Trailblazer Weekly, kind of recapping the 2019 season. We haven't been able to have him on the show until now, and then we can look ahead a little bit to this 2020 season that's going to be here before we know it.
Man,
and this is the most.
Break first, okay?
Well, now you're into the most.
I need a nap.
You're in the most important time of the year now. You got to get out there and get some players here on campus. So let's talk all RMAC. 17 all conference selections if you count those honorable mentions as well. A great showing for this team, including a couple of guys on first team. You've got, speaking of Chase Hess, he's on the first team. Juwan Dantzler's on the first team. Aaron Simpson and James Baird, first teamer guys. You had a lot of guys on the second team. Just break down when you look at that. 17 all RMAC selections, and I know there are a couple of guys that
got left off.
Darius Nash
was a big
being one of them.
Right,
I was shocked when I saw that, but. Pretty good recognition for your team, and it's a coach's vote, obviously, and so that means that these coaches in this conference were able to see everything that you guys accomplished as a team this year. Talk about what those 17 all-conference selections mean to this program.
That's huge for the program, especially going out. Those guys don't want to help us. It's like, all right, see ya. You're going to kick us on the way. No, they're good guys, good coaches, and so this conference is really good football, man. There's some good players all around, and it just showed the hard work that these individuals put in. It's a team game. They want to do their job the very best they can and not let their team down and be accountable to one another. And to be recognized for that hard work at the end of the season, that those results equaled an individual award is pretty cool. And I don't think any one of those guys are really trying to be all conference. It's just kind of that's just what happens when you do your job and be a good person and be a good player. And those guys were great, man. And we get a lot of those guys back, which is awesome. It's something to build off of. And, a big, huge emphasis on our team, man, is you look at our games, and the teams that we lost to were bigger than us. They were stronger than us. And so that's a huge emphasis for us. We're going to be playing a bunch of big, strong teams here in the future. And so the weight room's got to be a critical component for us, too. And these guys are all bought into that. And they're so young that's what my point is when we get them a year in the weight room, how much better can they be? So the sky's the limit with a bunch of these young pups that we're excited about.
You mentioned those young guys, and they'll be back and help continue to build this thing and help with a historic transition to Division One. What was your message? You say we've talked off the air, and you're finishing up exit interviews as this season is officially over. What was your message to those seniors, and especially to those seniors that decided to stay through the coaching change and to finish their fourth or fifth year here at Dixie State? What was your message to those guys to maybe say, hey, thanks for sticking with us, thanks for buying in and helping us have a great year?
It's hard. I just tip my hat to them, especially after that game. I was like, that's hard. It's hard to do. You bought into a coaching staff. It's your turn to shine, so to speak, as part of being a senior. And to have a new coaching staff come in, you'd already done the previous year the best that they've ever done D2 area, and all of a sudden that rug gets taken out from under you. So I tip my hat to those guys. They bought into what we were doing. There's just some ups and downs with that but they trusted us. The relationships got built, and they bought in, and they led our team by being very productive and showing guys what it's like to make plays on the field. And our young guys really responded well to that. And what we're trying to do is fun.
Chatting with head football coach Paul Peterson live on Trailblazer Weekly as we continue to wrap up the 2019 season. And then I think what's left to do now is look forward to 2020. We've been talking about this in anticipation since the announcement was made last summer. And now we are in that transition period, at least for you. The offseason has now begun. And so let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. Obviously, no days off in the off season, even though you're not playing games, you're still got a lot of work to do. Kind of what does your off season look like? What are you doing day to day? Kind of what's next for you in the off season before going to Division One?
Sure, we've got a mid-year signing day on December 18th. We got a couple pieces of the puzzle that we need to bring in during that mid-year, maybe some Division One and some JC transfers in that. And then it's full go recruiting until that first Wednesday in February. And so there's not really too much downtime there. We got a lot to compete against. There's really not any more diamonds in the rough in recruiting. There's with the advent of Huddle, there's no guy. If you do your due diligence and you watch the film and go visit these high school coaches, and so really, like you said earlier, get these guys here on campus to see what we have to offer, what the growth is happening, and I think there's some excitement around that. But yeah, it's full go recruiting. Once recruiting gets done in February, it's get ready for spring practice. Spring practice is going to be all of March. Spring games April 4th. We've already mapped that all out, and then it's camp season. Then all of a sudden, we're back in camp in August. So before you know it, we'll be going. But it's a cycle that just keeps on going. So really, really big focus on getting the right type of guy here on campus.
And obviously, with the move to Division I, you're now not recruiting Division II caliber players. You're recruiting Division I caliber players with a roster now minus a few seniors that are Division II players, and obviously are going to make the transition with you. What is this team going to look like next year? Obviously, with some of the underclassmen that are now transitioning with this football team and the new recruits you're bringing in this offseason, what is this team going to look like come next August?
Yeah, so that's the thing. When we recruit, there's not any difference. Like, we didn't recruit D2 guys, right? We recruited guys that we thought are going to help us in the future. It was okay. We're going to play BYU in 2022. Will this guy help us beat BYU? So if they don't meet the certain recruiting criteria that we're going to with as far as academics and what they can do on the football field and what type of person they are, we're not going to bring them in. So we'll stick to those guns always, whether they were defined as Division II signees or not. That was the goal. So last year we brought in some guys that were really, really going to help us. Now it's our turn. The guys that were here that were recruited at D2, well, we got to help continue their development. And there's some really good football players. I think most of our team could fit in at any other FCS school. I really believe that. And so just to buy into what we're trying to do, get us bigger, faster, stronger, that's a huge emphasis, like I said. And we're going to compete with these teams, no doubt about it.
You're winding down with head coach Paul Peterson as the Trailblazers hit an historic 8-3 season and transitioning to what will be a historic off season and then transition to Division I and leading up to that September 5th game up in Cedar City at SUU. What a way to start that next season. By the way, in the first season as Division I. You mentioned spring ball. I wanted to ask about that. Specifically, you mentioned kind of March into April. I know there are a lot of differences in a lot of sports between the Division I and Division II calendar, so to speak, and how many days you get. Yeah. Do you get any more practice time as a Division going in Division I for spring, or is it about the same? How does that work out? How will that all shake out?
It's about the same. So you want to get done before April 15th. That's the first day that you can get out recruiting in your spring recruiting. So we've some guys do it 5 weeks, where it's 3 days a week, where you mix in your workouts with it too. We're gonna go those 5 weeks. We'll do 2 weeks, and then we have spring break, and then 2 weeks. It just works out better for us as far as guys with class too. We'll still practice in the AM, which is nice. So it just kind of works out. It depends on where you are, what resources you have on campus, which we're great here. So yeah, spring ball is going to be all of March. That spring game is April 4th, and we're rocking and rolling.
And full steam ahead. No downtime. Let's go. Let's keep playing football right now. He's head coach Paul Peterson as we finish up on the interview here on Trailblazer Weekly. Like you mentioned, it's full go pretty much right now until that first Wednesday in February, which, if you're wondering, that's February 5th. That will be signing day this coming 2020, and we'll be sure to bring you back in.
Give me more time. I think we had like a 15-minute.
Yeah, we only did 15. We'll do a signing day special.
Yeah, that'll be good.
This February, and we'll break down the whole class and talk about these guys. We're excited, and we still got to meet as a staff kind of behind the scenes and map out exactly what we're going to do that day. But obviously a huge day for those recruits and for your team as well. And just so excited for your team going forward, Coach, and excited for this transition to Division I.
And we were rookies last year with signing day as far as the show goes.
Nice
so
job.
Obviously
you're savvy vets.
Learn and grow quickly. Who pick for your national championship winner? Division I.
D1.
Utes. They're going to get. So if they get in, they're going to surprise some teams, man. Their defense is so tough, and they don't make any mistakes offensively. I'm not jumping on their bandwagon. I'm really impressed with what they're doing. That'd be sweet if they got in. But
heard it here first. Utah Utes national champions. Head coach Paul Peterson.
He is head coach Paul Peterson. Coach, appreciate you stopping by the studio today and talking about the season and the transition going forward. We got to run to break, but we've got much more coming up on Trailblazer Weekly. So stick with us. We're back right after this timeout.